Long before the great temples of Egypt rose from the sands, long before prophets walked among nations, and long before books of scripture were inked onto parchment, there were fires. Fires burning in caves, in open fields, and in the hearts of early humans. Around those fires, men and women told stories of spirits, of gods, of animals that walked in both this world and the unseen. These were not the organized religions we know today. They were older, wilder, more deeply rooted in nature and survival. They were pagan and tribal beliefs, the very first whispers of humanity's search for meaning. Welcome, my friends, to the Reli Talks. I am so glad you are here today, because together we are about to embark on a journey, not just through history, but through the very origins of spirituality itself. Today, we will uncover the story of pagan and tribal beliefs, how they began, how they shaped cultures across continents, and why, even in our modern age, they still live within us. So, sit back, open your mind, and let us travel thousands of years into the past, to a time when the earth itself was a temple, and every tree, every river, and every star held a spirit worth honoring. 1. Defining pagan tribal beliefs. Before we dive deep, let us ask, what do we really mean when we say pagan or tribal beliefs? The word pagan comes from the Latin paganus, which simply meant villager or country dweller. In Roman times, it was used to describe rural people who held onto old polytheistic practices while the cities turned to Christianity. Over time, the word grew to describe many ancient religions that honored multiple gods and forces of nature. Tribal beliefs, on the other hand, are the spiritual systems born within indigenous communities, unwritten, oral, passed down in stories, rituals, and dances. They are intimate, tied to land, ancestors, and survival. At their core, both pagan and tribal faiths celebrate the sacredness of nature. They honor many gods, or sometimes spirits, each representing forces of life: sun, rain, animals, fertility, harvest, ancestors. They are flexible, alive, ever-changing, and deeply human. These beliefs are not primitive, as some once claimed. They are humanity's first philosophy, our earliest attempt to make sense of the mysteries of life, death, and the universe. 2. The dawn of spirituality, prehistoric roots. Now, let's step even further back, tens of thousands of years into the prehistoric past. Imagine a world where survival was uncertain, where every hunt could mean life or death, where storms, fires, and diseases seemed like uncontrollable powers. In such a world, it is no surprise that humans turn to the unseen for meaning and protection. Archaeology gives us fascinating clues. In caves like Lascaux and Chauvet in France, paintings of animals, deer, bison, lions, cover the walls. These weren't just decorations. Many scholars believe they were part of rituals, calling upon the spirits of animals for a successful hunt. In Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey, dating back to 7500 BCE, shrines filled with bull skulls and fertility figures suggest rituals tied to reproduction, agriculture, and survival. And then there are burials. In Sungir, Russia, 30,000 years ago, humans buried their dead with beads, tools, and ornaments, clear signs of belief in an afterlife. In the Shanidar cave in Iraq, Neanderthals were laid to rest with flowers, suggesting ritual and reverence. These early practices reveal something profound. Before the names of gods, before the construction of temples, humans already sensed the sacred. We already believed there was more to existence than what we could see. Death was not an ending. Nature was not just physical, it was spiritual. This was the true dawn of religion. 3. Animism. At the heart of almost every tribal religion is something called animism. In Native American traditions, the eagle was not just a bird, but a messenger between humans and the Great Spirit. In Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime stories, every rock, every tree, every landscape was a living link to ancestral beings who shaped the world. Animism is not superstition, it is relationship. To hunt was not only survival, it was a sacred dialogue with the spirit of the animal. To plant was not just agriculture, it was a prayer to the earth. This worldview created balance. Humans were not rulers of nature, but part of nature's web. Every action carried responsibility because every river, every wolf, every mountain had a soul. In many ways, animism was humanity's first environmental philosophy, a reminder that the world around us is not just resources to be consumed, but sacred partners in the dance of life. 4. The rise of polytheism, gods of nature and life. As societies grew larger, farming more complex, and cities more organized, spirituality evolved too. The spirits of nature became personified as gods. Polytheism, belief in many gods, spread across continents. The sun became the life-giver, often the most powerful god. In Egypt, he was Ra. Among the Incas, he was Inti. The moon became linked to fertility and cycles of life. In Mesopotamia, she was Nana Sin. The storm and thunder became warrior deities. In Norse lands, that was Thor. The earth became a great mother, provider of crops and abundance. Polytheism was practical. A farmer could pray to a fertility goddess at planting, a storm god during drought, and an ancestor during funerals. It was never exclusive. It was adaptable to life's needs. Unlike later monotheism, polytheism didn't demand exclusive loyalty. It allowed people to live with many gods, each representing a fragment of the vast mystery of existence. Greek, Roman, Norse, Celtic, Hindu, and Egyptian religions all grew out of these roots. And though separated by continents, their similarities show us something important. Humans everywhere were searching for the same answers and finding them in the forces of nature around them. 5. Rituals, shamans, and sacred practices. But how did ancient people practice their faiths? Through rituals, acts that bridge the human and the divine. Sacrifices were common, food, animals, or crafted goods offered to gods or spirits as signs of gratitude and pleas for help. Shamans played a central role. These spiritual leaders were healers, visionaries, and guides. They entered trances through drumming, chanting, or sacred plants, traveling to the spirit world to bring back wisdom. Fertility rites celebrated cycles of planting and harvest, ensuring abundance for the tribe. Dances, chants, and symbols like the mother goddess were used to bless both crops and childbirth. Totemism was another powerful idea. Tribes often identified themselves with an animal, a bear clan, an eagle clan, a wolf clan. They believed the animal spirit guided and protected them. And of course, ancestor worship. Death was not the end. The spirits of ancestors were still present, influencing the living, offering blessings, or sometimes punishment. Honoring them through rituals was not just respect, it was survival. Through all these practices, community was strengthened and meaning was woven into every part of life. 6. Examples across the world. Now let us see how pagan and tribal traditions looked in different corners of the earth. In Africa, the Yoruba of Nigeria worshipped Orishas, divine beings tied to forces like storms, rivers, love, and war. Ritual drumming and dance connected worshippers to the spirit world. In Europe, the Celts celebrated seasonal festivals like Samhain, the origin of Halloween, marking cycles of death and rebirth. Norse traditions gave us Odin, the wise wanderer, Thor, the thunder god, and Freya, the goddess of fertility and love. Among Native Americans, the Lakota Sioux honored Wakantanka, the Great Spirit. The Sun Dance, a powerful ritual, renewed life for the entire tribe. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztec civilizations worshipped gods of the sun, rain, and maize. Human sacrifices, though shocking to us today, were believed to sustain the cosmic balance. In Asia, ancient China placed ancestor worship at the heart of religion, while in Japan, Shinto emerged from animism, revering kami, spirits of rivers, trees, and ancestors. In Australia, Aboriginal Dreamtime stories told how ancestral beings shaped the land, creating mountains, rivers, and animals. These stories weren't just myths, they were maps, moral lessons, and sacred connections to the land. Despite vast distances, one truth remained: humanity everywhere saw the divine in nature, in life, and in the unseen. 7. From tribal to organized religions. As humanity advanced, so too did religion. With agriculture, gods of fertility and harvest became central. With kingdoms, rulers claimed divine authority, linking political power to spiritual power. With writing, oral myths became scriptures, preserving stories forever. This shift transformed tribal spirituality into organized religions, egg one god over many. Pagan and tribal practices were often suppressed, sometimes violently, but they never vanished. They survived in folk rituals, in seasonal festivals, and in the hearts of indigenous peoples. 8. The survival of pagan tribal traditions today. 250 words. Even today, pagan and tribal beliefs live on. Neo-paganism and Wicca revive old European practices, celebrating solstices, honoring the goddess, practicing nature-based spirituality. Indigenous religions thrive across Africa, the Americas, and Asia, despite centuries of colonization. Even our holidays bear pagan roots. Halloween, Christmas trees, Easter eggs, all trace back to older traditions. And in a world facing climate crisis, animism's respect for nature feels more relevant than ever. These beliefs remind us that the earth is not just a resource, it is sacred. So what do pagan and tribal beliefs teach us? They show us that spirituality is older than temples, older than scriptures. Our first prayers were not written. They were sung around fires, painted on cave walls, whispered to rivers, offered to the rising sun. They remind us that the divine is not far away, but woven into every breath, every tree, every stone. And perhaps most importantly, they remind us of our place in the great web of life, not as rulers, but as participants. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the origins of pagan and tribal beliefs. If this exploration inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Relly Talks for more stories of humanity's search for meaning. Until next time, may you walk with wisdom, may you see the sacred in the simple, and may you always remember, our oldest temple is the earth beneath our feet.